I think it's no surprise in this day and age when you hear about Japan, most people envision a number of things. And one of those things you might think of is this thing that is spread around, which is, oh, the Japan work life is some of the most brutal in the world. But there seems to be a couple of big surveys that were conducted over the last couple of years to see just what that reason might be. And the results are pretty interesting. So I have an article here from Live Door News, and this is a Japanese article, so I'm going to have to translate on the spot, so apologies if I'm a bit slow on that. But basically, there was a number of surveys that were conducted by international companies to see which country has the workers that have the least amount of passion towards their work, the least amount of like, all right, I'm going to do my work. I'm going to do well for this company. I'm going to achieve as much as I can levels of passion for their work. Surprise, out of all of the countries that they surveyed, Japan came in dead last. First of all, there was a Dutch company called Landsted that did a survey back in 2019 that asked Japanese people the question, are you satisfied with your work or your work conditions? To which 42% said yes, making them last place out of 34 countries that they survey. Another one, it's an American company that did a survey last year, which basically asked the question, how many of you are a very passionate worker? How many of you are a very motivated worker? To which, on the Japan side, only 5% of them said that they were, which made them last place in 125 countries that they surveyed. What is the reason behind all of these survey results? Well, there are a number of people who came to Japan's defense, some of them being Japanese workers who own small to large businesses, and some of them were international workers working in a lot of big businesses. To which a lot of them said something along the lines of, well, you know, Japanese people used to be, very passionate, used to be very motivated in their work, but over the last couple of years, a lot of people have started to dwindle down on their passions, dwindle down on their motivation. A lot of people just throwing away any work that they don't want to do, not coming to work after being told off for whatever reason. And a lot of them just don't really seem to mesh with the traditional Japanese work culture, especially, stuff like after work culture, where it was very common for like salarymen and salarywomen after a hard day of work to go out with their peers, go out with their bosses to like go drink and, have meals and stuff like that. And as someone who interned at a Japanese company for 3 months, that shit really happened. And whether I liked it or not, I kind of had to go to these because it was almost like a choice, but also an obligation at the same time. Because they said it was good for like team working, and you not showing up to this is like, leaving a bad impression on the bosses of being like, oh, does this guy not want to get to know me? Does this guy not want to have fun with me? Blah, 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 blah. Even though, I'm an intern, I'm not a actual employee at this company yet. And thank God I never did end up becoming a company because I believe that company went bankrupt not long after I finished my internship. I definitely dodged a bullet there. But a lot of, I guess, the older generation, more specifically Japanese man in his 30s and a Japanese man in his 50s, came to Japan's defense against these surveys, saying that, maybe these surveys aren't all that accurate. One of them saying something along the lines of, isn't it interesting how Japan used to be one of the most like passionate and hardworking and motivated people in the world, and for them to suddenly go like from first place all the way to last place? I don't know, maybe it was the way you like ask the questions, maybe it was, them not wanting to like be honest about surveys and stuff like that. It just seems like it's a little bit sus, bro. To which I say, I think they are slightly missing the point and misjudging the point, because yes, it is definitely true that especially back in the 70s to the 90s, during the huge financial economic bubble that Japan was in, yes, there were a lot of motivated people. There were a lot of passionate workers in Japan, which really helped Japan to really explode business and financially and give us all of the great stuff that Japan invented back in 50s, 40 years ago. But that was back then. Japan in 2024 is very different. They are absolutely not in an economic bubble. If anything, Japan right now is suffering economically quite a bit as a result of a number of things like COVID and the massive failed attempt of the Summer Olympics, as well as just not generally being able to keep up with how the rest of the world is is flowing in terms of these kinds of work structures. And I think that has led to this very well-known fact now that Japan's work labor and work environments are very tough and brutal. Because if you compare it to how a lot of it works in the West, a lot of what the system is built up on in Japan in this day and age is very outdated. A lot of these like big head companies who are of the older generation, and the fact that Japan just loves sticking to culture, whether they think it is correct or morally or ethically correct or not, just don't want to change that because Japan is not very susceptible to change, especially if that influence is coming from the Western world, and especially if that doesn't fit in with their current moral standings or their current ethical standings. I think a lot of Japanese business owners and bosses and people who have employees in Japan, people who have companies in Japan, don't see the current business model as being outdated. And I think that's the root of the issue. They see the West and the way that, bosses and companies, treat their employees in that sense as being very risky, being just something that would not work in a culture like Japan. In one way, I kind of get it, obviously because Japan is a very collectivist society and it is very difficult to collectively change, those kinds of people to work in a more independent environment like the West easily can. But I think at the same time, it's not impossible to do. And I think now, especially the younger generation being more connected to the world and seeing that across the pond, there are people who are working their jobs in a more independent way, which is very different to how perhaps their job in Japan is operated. They probably see it as the grass is greener on the other side. And so they come back to their day-to-day jobs and look at the state of how their company is running, look at the state of how the work environment is running in Japan, and see it as not very satisfactory. And if you're in a position like that, then how are you supposed to feel motivated and feel passionate about this particular job? But it's not only Japanese people coming to the defense of Japanese people. In fact, there are some foreigner business owners who also feel the same way. For example, Josephine Teo, who is this, I guess, Singaporean business owner, said that there is absolutely no way that Japan and Japanese people would be the least motivated and the least passionate in their work for a number of reasons. One reason being that a lot of Japanese people view their work in a very personal matter. When something happens to a company in Japan, the employees take it personally and they try to fix it like it's a personal issue. But I think that mentality is a little bit flawed. I don't think it's the matter of Japanese people look at issues in the company as being their own issues. I think it's more so the fact that they're being forced to treat it as their personal issue. Because Japan has this thing called tatemae, which is, the best way I can describe it is basically like an outward face, a business smile, if you will, where regardless of how they truly feel on the inside, they have to act a certain way on the outside. And, at a base level, everybody does that regardless of what country or culture you're in. Like, you don't want to be an asshole in the confines of your own house and then be that exact same asshole outside to other people. Obviously, you sometimes put on a good face. You sometimes want to be civil about things. But Japan takes it to a really far reach when it comes to that kind of stuff. Their outside face is almost a completely different person. And without this outward face, without this tatemae, you're basically ostracizing yourself within Japanese society. You have to show that outward face that is a people pleaser. You have to show that outward face that you are a hardworking, passionate, motivated citizen when, everybody has their own shit in their lives. And that disparity between these two different versions of you, I think, is what creates that stress and is what creates that lack of motivation and lack of passion over a long period of time. And then that's when you get people, suffering from things like karoshi or suffering from game overing yourself. Also, there was this American business guy, Davey Wilson, I guess, who actually found it really funny that America actually scored first in the same questionnaire of Americans are the most passionate and hardworking out of 125 countries. And this American business guy just does not believe it, saying things like, well, obviously they are going to be a lot highly, seeing themselves on, from a third person perspective. And also, for a lot of them, if they don't say like, yes, I am a very passionate worker, I'm a very hardworking person, then there's a chance that, say for example, their boss is going to see those results and they might not be coming back the following week. Which, look, I get it, but wouldn't that also apply for Japanese people as well? As someone who has employees, someone who has a Japanese company, someone who has both Japanese and Western employees, I always want to make sure that my workers are obviously giving me the results that I pay them to do, but at the same time, I want them to like what they do. I don't want to have a person around who does everything that they do, but at the expense of their mental health. That doesn't feel good for me as a boss. But the same guy also goes on to say that, oh, so who cares? This whole survey is stupid because passion and hard work does not equate to a good employee. Saying things like, well, if there were two people lining up for a job interview, one person who has a lot of passion and motivation but can't bring out the results, or someone who has low passion and low motivation but does get the results, which one are you going to hire? For him, he says he would hire the latter, which I don't know. To be honest with you, I wouldn't hire either of them. Again, I think a balance is really important, especially if you want to have an employee for a long period of time. And look, I don't know what this guy's job is. He might run a company that has like thousands of employees, in which case, sure, if you want to treat your employees like shit and as, replaceable, then go for it. But, I'm not at that position. I only have a handful of employees, and I care very much about every single one of my employees personally because yes, I do obviously want them to produce the results, but if they don't like it, if they're not passionate about it, if they have no motivation to do it, then that is going to seep through into their work. Especially with a work like mine that revolves around a lot of creative thinking. Sure, if you're at a desk job and you're just like punching in numbers into a computer all day, then you obviously don't need passion. You obviously don't need motivation. That is second to none as long as you get the results. I get that. But I think the biggest flaw with this survey and all of the criticism that is revolved around the results of the survey is that it is so dependent on what type of job we are talking about here. Again, as I mentioned, if you are just punching in numbers all day, if you are just making code all day, if you're just doing financing all day, then yeah, maybe motivation, passion might be second to none. But for a creative job like mine, I want the people I work with to be passionate. I want the people I work with to be as excited as I am to create this thing that I'm trying to do with the help of all of these people around me. And on top of that, yes, of course, I want them to perform, but at the same time, my job is all about experimentation. I don't know if a video is going to pop off until I upload it, until the finished result is made. And at that point, I'm not going to turn around to like the people who help me make videos or help me make clothes and stuff like that to be like, guys, we didn't sell. The video did shit, the clothes didn't sell, you all fucking suck. I don't care how passionate and motivated you all are. Fuck you guys. You didn't give me the results that I wanted. Get out. Like, no, I'm not some kind of like fucking devil. Obviously, I'm going to take the benefit of the doubt and also put the blame on myself as well, because it's not like I'm completely like irresponsible for any of the creation that I get help with. So yes, I totally understand why this survey ended up being the results that they are, but there are so many caveats involved in it that it's really hard to say if that is actually the case. However, from experience and just from seeing, and interacting with a lot of people in Japan and, having gone and worked properly at a Japanese company for a short period of time, I can definitely say that I am not surprised by these results. But I think at the end of the day, what this survey is a wake-up call. I think it really is time that Japan just forget about all of these like old traditional ways of like running a company, forget about all these traditional ways of running business. I think they really need to start opening their eyes and expanding their horizons to the rest of the world and realizing, hey, maybe what we're doing right now is kind of not good, not just for our employees, but for our business and country in general. I'm no business expert myself. Like I run my own business, but I'm no expert myself. I'm still new to all of this shit. But even I can tell you that I've seen Japanese companies where it's like, why are you running your business like this? It is a goddamn waste of time. It is a goddamn waste of energy. And no wonder you're not getting fucking anything done because you're relying on methods that were around like 50 years ago. And guess what? We're not in the economic bubble anymore. It is not how it works in 2024. Keep up with the times, dog. You don't need any kind of business expert to tell you that. I don't know, man. It's just really sad and annoying. And, I promise all of my employees, I promise to myself more than anything that I will never, ever stoop to that fucking level. I care about all of my employees. I care about all the people that I work with, and I want them to be just as motivated and as passionate as they are hardworking. But yeah, I guess this is a little bit more of a different type of topic that I wanted to talk about because, you know, I had a couple of my thoughts on it. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on all of this as well, about anything I said in this video. And hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smack my face right here, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep making big channel number go bigger. Over here next to my head is a couple more videos you can check out if you enjoyed this one. Links to my social media, as well as my Patreon to support me directly, and Nonsense, my clothing brand. Check it out. Me and all of my employees love this shit. You can check it out at nonsense.jp, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.